There are cars you work on, and there are cars that own a piece of your soul. This BMW 535i came into the shop as more than just another job. It was an escape, a project, a rolling testament to German engineering and clients' questionable life choices. And then, last Tuesday, it decided to betray its owner. It coughed out enough metal to set off every warning light on the dash, a symphony of electronic anguish signaling the end of an era. The N54, that notoriously brilliant and temperamental inline-six, had finally given up the ghost in spectacular fashion. Now, most sane people faced with a grenaded engine in a 15-year-old luxury sedan would probably throw in the towel. They'd part it out, sell it for scrap, or maybe even light it on fire for their insurance money. But the owner isn't most sane people. Instead of abandoning ship, he decided to double down, and he brought it to me to make it happen. We're not just stuffing in a fresh N54, we're bolting on a pair of upgraded 17Ts because let's be honest, if you're already going through the agony of pulling an engine, you might as well make the thing a proper sleeper. Alongside other maintenance, we are doing a aluminum valve cover, upgraded inlets, oil filter housing, well, pretty much all the seals on the car, including the front crank seal, the rear main seal, and the oil pan gasket. Finding a replacement N54 that wasn't already on its last legs felt like hunting for a unicorn. These engines, while powerful, have a reputation for being particular. You can't just grab the first one you see. You need to do your homework. We scoured our contacts, forums, salvage yards, and online marketplaces for weeks. The criteria were strict. We wanted an N54 from a rolled car, meaning the engine itself hadn't been directly impacted, and one with verifiable mileage. Finally, after countless dead ends and sketchy listings, we snagged the motor from a rolled 535i. It had a respectable 120,000 miles on the clock, which for an N54 is practically low mileage if it's been maintained. The moment it arrived at the shop, we put it through its paces. First, a compression test, 185 psi across all 6 cylinders. That's excellent, indicating healthy piston rings and valves. Then, a leak down test, which measures how much air an engine cylinder loses over a period of time. These tests gave us the confidence that this donor engine had good bones. But even with a healthy donor, you don't just drop it in and call it a day. While the engine was already out, easy accessible, we decided to reseal everything. This is where you prevent future headaches. Okay, now it's time to break down the engine. First thing, I started off by removing the intake manifold first. I just felt like it'll be easier to remove the wiring harness with the intake manifold off. 17mm nut for the fuel line to the high pressure fuel pump to the fuel rail, and then a 14mm for the injectors to the fuel rail. If you guys are enjoying the content, make sure to comment below your favorite BMW and if you have any questions. Now, most people would start cutting away at this harness, but that's not me. I don't like cutting the harness, even though it's broken anyway. Now, this fuel sensor here goes to the fuel rail. I have to disconnect that. Also, I have to disconnect the oil pressure sensor, as well as the Vano solenoid and coolant temperature sensor in the front of the engine. Yeah, it might look like I'm manhandling this harness, but this harness was cut by the junkyard already, so it's pretty much trash. The valve cover, of course, was next. These plastic covers tend to warp over time, leading to oil weeping onto the exhaust manifold, which not only smells terrible, but is also a fire risk. A fresh gasket and new valve cover ensures a leak-free top end. Replacing them while the engine is out is a no-brainer. Every single one of these gaskets and seals was replaced with genuine BMW or OEM quality parts because frankly, you don't want to do this twice. The labor involved in getting to these components is too great to cheap out. It's a good thing we're replacing this valve cover because as you can see, there's a huge crack right here, all right here. To remove the fuel rail fully, there are 4 11mm bolts. I'm going to remove this boost solenoid shield and then the valve cover is coming off. The journey to this particular brand of automotive hell begins too soon enough for the owner. He was cruising home, minding his own business when the car started to fail off. A slight hesitation, a faint murmur from under the hood that wasn't quite right. His first thought, even the optimist, was, oh, it's probably just a coil pack. Classic N54 owner delusion, right? You always hope for the easy fix. He limped the car the last few miles, the sound growling steadily more ominous, a metallic symphony of impending doom. He pulled into his garage, shut it off, and when the car arrived at our shop, the first thing we did was check the oil. That's when the grim reality set in. The oil pan, my friends, looked like a glitter bomb had exploded inside. Not just a few specks, but a shimmering metallic sheen coating everything. Our hearts sank faster than a lead balloon. This wasn't a coil pack. This was something far more catastrophic. I'm removing this coolant outlet pipe because I'm just going to get a brand new aluminum one. This one was kind of stuck on there, as you guys can see. I have special wrenches for the E-Torx. This one is a E10. Fits right on there. I always crack these loose with the wrench first before I use the impact. Now this is one of the last things I always remove, and it is the starter. It's held on by an E12 bolt. If it was connected to the bell housing, it would have another bolt, but it's not. So it's just that E12 on the bottom of the starter. This right here is the last piece of the harness. Let's go, guys. Now I'm going to clean up the junkyard's mess. This old crusty water pump is going in the trash, and what else is going along with it is the old turbo lines and the old turbo shields. If you're still watching the video, who wants a free water pump? Okay, now this is just my opinion now. If you're a junkyard and you remove the turbos from the engine, why not take off the shields as well? Also, why cut the oil lines and the coolant lines off the turbos? I mean, I know you want to take it off easy, but come on. Okay, I think this is the first time I've seen this. Now, on the back of this shield right here, it had some type of glue. It was like stuck to the block. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Now I'm going to remove this coolant pipe. It's pretty much the main pipe that runs to the water pump. And last but not least, the cut oil lines that the junkyard cut. I still don't understand it. Okay, this is the oil feed line I'm about to remove. I have a story for you guys. One time I had an N54 that would not stop leaking from here for the life of me. I changed the O-ring about 3 times. It was a nightmare. Do you guys have any stories? If you do, comment below. Both of these top feed lines were killing me. For some reason, they did not want to come out. I'm betting they are the original that came with the motor. I gave up with the flathead and got the big guns, the vice grips.
Diamond my rich and my rich got rough. 2 different watch my wrist and they rub. Dominate us and they fuss and they rush. Even I be in the discussion. I ain't saying.
Now that the engine is fully tore down, there are still 2 things we have to do. The front crank seal and the rear main seal. But let's get this valve cover on. First, I'm going to get the mating surface clean for the fresh valve cover gasket. I'm going to wipe down all this excess oil. Just look at it. It looks good, shiny. Looks super clean. I'm not a detailer though. I think the hardest part about cleaning this surface is around the injectors. It's a super tight area and it's kind of hard to get like a cloth in there and around that area. When installing an aluminum valve cover, there are two different size bolts. The longer bolt on the right side goes to the bottom left corner and the top right corner. The other size, like the smaller size bolts, those are just the regular bolts. Just be mindful when you're tightening down these aluminum valve covers because sometimes they tend to slice the gasket. You pretty much just want to make sure you don't over tighten it. Alright, now let's not forget about the oil filter housing gasket and the oil cooler gasket. What I'm going to do right now is clean this surface, same as I did with the valve cover, and then I'm going to move over to cleaning the oil filter housing and the oil cooler housing. Here's the part number for you guys. Everything is from FCP Euro. This is the oil filter housing gasket. And where's the oil cooler gasket? And this one is the oil cooler gasket. I don't even know if the part numbers are on here, but there you go. Also, the oil cooler O-rings. This one has the part number right here. Boom and boom. Now, me personally, when it comes to cleaning parts, this is like the worst part for me. I hate doing it just because every time I do it, I get grease all over me, all over my sweater, sometimes on my face. It sucks sometimes, but I do like the end result that everything looks nice and shiny and clean. The spray that I'm spraying on here is just some automotive degreaser. I usually let this sit for a little bit so it'll just get all that dirt and grime off the oil filter housing. Now I have to take off the oil cooler hoses. To remove, I usually use a T40, but it's a Allen bolt. Now those two oil cooler hoses are out the way, I can get the last bolt for the front oil cooler. Now the weirdest thing to me is pulling this apart felt like cracking a coconut. I don't know. Psst, hey you, subscribe. Sometimes it takes a little more than one coat. You can tell this oil filter housing was leaking for a little bit. This engine degreaser kind of looks like shaving cream, right? For me, it's just something about fresh, new gaskets. I don't know. I think it's satisfying. Make sure the gasket is all the way in, not poking out or anything like that. You don't want the gasket to pinch and then you have to do this again. Do it right the first time. These are the brand new bolts for the oil filter housing. Now again, be careful when you're putting this on. The gasket can move, it is possible, but as long as you're careful, you should be good to go. For some reason, I don't know, I've always done this since I started being a mechanic, but I always hand tighten everything before I use like a ratchet or an impact. I don't know. All right, this is for the E60 owners. Trying to get to this bolt with the engine in is a nightmare, man. Let me know if I'm wrong. I know it's way easier on an E90. What's up, man? Oh no, not you guys. I'm talking to the turbos over there. I know they're waiting in the spool. Always double check that you tightened everything. Matter of fact, even triple check. You never could go wrong. What's better than some fresh gaskets for the sleeper? Now that the oil filter housing and the oil cooler is installed, now we can replace this oil pressure sensor. The oil pressure sensor is very important. Why not change it? Just look at this view. I feel like I'm in a movie. Hey guys, I wanted to show you my new tool. Guess what? I think I'm a detailer now. Okay, so I'm gonna get this engine block the cleanest I can. I'm gonna put some degreaser on there, scrub it a little bit with my little tool, and then I'm gonna move on to pulling the engine out the E60.
$500,000 all blues, bitch, we went large. $250,000.
With the E60, when it comes to engine removal, you essentially have two schools of thought. You can either drop the front subframe, which gives you fantastic access from below, or you can pull the nose, which opens up the engine bay from the front. Dropping the subframe wasn't a practical option because my table actually broke. The subframe is a heavy, complex assembly, and trying to maneuver it without the proper equipment would have been an exercise in futility, not to mention a serious safety hazard, so the nose comes off. This process transforms the crammed, intimidating engine bay into something resembling an empty swimming pool. It gives you room to breathe, to work, in crucial sight lines that make the entire removal process significantly easier. The bumper, which looks like a daunting piece to remove, is actually quite straightforward. It's held on by 8 T30 Torx screws up top, two 10mm bolts hidden behind each fender liner, and a row of those evil Christmas tree clips that always shear off or get lost. I swear BMW buys these things in bulk knowing we'll need replacements. Once those are out, a little gentle tugging and the bumper is off, revealing the core support. Now some people remove the headlights, but you really don't have to. The front end comes in two pieces. You have the front crash bar, and then you have the radiator and AC condenser connected together as one piece. It's a surprisingly elegant design, allowing for excellent access for front end service, and it makes engine removal significantly less catastrophic. With the bumper off, it's time to start stripping the accessories off the old engine. This is where you get a real sense of the wear and tear this motor has endured. Now, for the wiring harness graveyard, BMW calls it a tree, which sounds elegant and organized. In reality, on a high mileage N54, it feels more like a briar patch, a tangled, brittle mess of wires, connectors, and loom tape. This is where patience is a virtue, and labeling is a paramount. Now, getting any of these connectors or wires wrong when you put the engine back in can cause a misfire code at best or a fried ECU at worst. A simple piece of tape now saves hours of troubleshooting later. I'm going to make more room by removing the intake manifold so it makes it easier for me when I pull the engine. Now, when I do these N54 engine swaps, I take out the 3 bell housing bolts on top. It makes it easier on me, so when I go to the bottom of the car, I won't have to stretch like Elastigirl to grab the top bell housing bolts. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to like the video. Psst. Hey you, make sure to subscribe. Looks like it's about that time to remove the engine mount bolts. Now this is my favorite part, removing the under trays and unbolting the exhaust from the catalytic converters. Trying to remove these nuts was a nightmare. The bolts are so old they were breaking off in pieces. I'm not gonna lie, I felt like I tried everything in the book, even tried cleaning off the old bolts. To be honest with you guys, this really felt like the end. Everything I was doing and trying just wasn't working. Yes, we did it. We beat the final boss. After that almost impossible task, I'm wiped out, but we still have one more task to complete. My plan is to pull the engine only, leaving the transmission in place. This avoids the extra work of dropping the entire drivetrain, disconnecting drive shafts, and dealing with transmission fluid. To do this, I need to separate the engine from the transmission. These bolts are notorious for being difficult to access. 3 are up top, clearly visible once the intake manifold is off, and there's 8 more on the bottom surrounding the transmission bell housing. Psst. Hey you, like the video. There are 6 torque converter bolts and you can find them here. I don't know about you guys, but I'm exhausted. Once you have all the bell housing bolts out and the torque converter bolts, you want to make sure this torque converter is disconnected from the flex plate. Woo! Alright. Finally it's time to pull the motor out. The moment of truth. The engine is finally ready to come out. I carefully chain up the lift points. One link goes to the cast ear by cylinder 1, a sturdy factory design lifting point. The other goes to the hook behind cylinder 6, ensuring a balanced lift. This is critical for stability and safety. You don't want a several hundred-pound engine swinging wildly. Now begins the slow dance, a dedicated ballet of steel and hydraulics. Up an inch, stop, Check clearance around the steering rack. You don't want to damage that sensitive component. Up another inch. Confirm the oil pan skirt clears the front subframe. Every millimeter counts here. About 6 inches up, the transfer case snout, which is still attached to the transmission, kisses the firewall. It's a tight fit, a gentle caress of metal on metal, but it clears. Now what I did do is pull this post mount out because where the steering column is, it's too far for me to either, well, there's only two things I can do. I can either remove this or take the steering. What is that called? What is that called? Well, you guys get what I mean. The steering rod or whatever. So on this E60, I had to lower the subframe just a bit because even with the post mount out, I was having issues clearing the front differential with the steering rack. So this gave me a little bit more room. These subframes have 6 bolts total, 2 in the front, 2 in the middle, and 2 in the rear. They are 18 millimeter. If you guys are enjoying the content, make sure you hit that like button. Finally, with a gentle push and pull, the engine is free. It rolls forward, out the engine bay, and into the light. And there it is, the carnage. I don't know about you guys, but after I pull engines, I find some crazy stuff. Like, what's that? So before this powerhouse gets anywhere near the car, we're going to war. We're not just swapping a gasket or two. We're launching a full-scale, primitive strike on every single one of the N54's notorious leak points. This isn't just about replacing parts. This is about bulletproofing. Today, we're hitting the big three: the dreaded oil pan gasket, the front main seal, and the famous difficult rear main seal. This is exactly how you build a N54 you can 100% trust. The N54 is a legendary motor, no doubt, but its reputation for marking its territory is just as famous. A simple oil leak from the oil filter housing can drip onto the serpentine belt, causing it to slip off, get shredded, and sucked past the front cranksail into the engine. The result? Total oil starvation and catastrophic failure. Me personally, I do not trust these gaskets right here. The ones I do trust are these OEM gaskets. They are like crushed gaskets, and I'd rather use these. Removing these old O-rings on these turbo lines can be a pain sometimes. And now, the upgrade that changes everything. The 17T turbos. Faster spool, more response, and a level of power that transforms this E60 into something extraordinary. These aren't just replacements. They're performance upgrades designed to take this engine to the next level, delivering more boost, more torque, and more adrenaline per throttle input. Installing the turbos requires precision, care, and attention to detail. Every bolt, line, and gasket must be perfect. This isn't a rush job. This is a preparation for longevity and performance. The old weak points are gone. What remains is reliability, precision, and raw potential. Every step in this process is about respect for the N54 engine, respect for the power it delivers, the tuning it allows, and the driving experience it creates. By addressing every seal, mount, and accessory now, we're building a foundation that can handle not only stock performance, but upgrades far beyond it. The idea behind a hybrid is simple. You take the stock turbo housing so it bolts right up, but you machine it to fit a bigger compressor and turbine wheel. In this case, a 17T wheel, which is way bigger than stock. What does that mean for us? More airflow, a lot more. And more airflow tuned properly means more horsepower. We're not just looking for a little bump. We're aiming for a setup that can push 500 wheel horsepower, a number the stock turbos could never hit reliably. Another crucial piece to this puzzle is the water pipe seal. A lot of people forget about this seal when they're installing the turbos. This water pipe seal has to be replaced every time you replace your N54 turbos. N55 has this as well. It's more to the rear of the engine, and it's a circular shape instead of the oval one like the N54. The water pipe is held on by 4 E8 bolts. Pretty simple, right? Once positioned, hand tighten all bolts initially to keep the water pipe seated correctly. After, you can tighten the 2 T30 bolts that feed the turbos their coolant. Now when messing with all the turbo lines, you want to make sure none of the O-rings pinch. Very crucial. You don't want to have to do this twice. Psst, hit that like button. Next up, we're installing the stock N54 outlet pipe to the turbos. This pipe is critical as it directs airflow from the turbochargers to the intercooler and the intake, and it must be properly sealed to prevent boost leaks. Carefully slide the outlet pipe onto the turbo housings, making sure the pipe aligns perfectly with the turbo outlet flanges. Misalignment here can cause stress on the pipe and clamps, leading to leaks or even cracks over time. Once the pipe is seated, attach the clamps securely, but do not fully torque them yet. You want to ensure everything is aligned and not under tension. Once confirmed, tighten the clamps to the manufacturer's specifications. On the N54, this helps maintain a consistent seal under high boost pressures.
Don't get me started, I brung a big 40. Got 2 guns, called them shits Ricky and Morty. When 23 knew I would be big as Jordan. Please do not.
Next up, the oil pan gasket. To get to this in the car, you have to drop the entire front subframe. For us, it's just a matter of hanging the engine and zipping out a couple dozen bolts. The most critical part here is cleaning the surfaces. Any speck of old gasket or oil will cause the new one to leak. Now that the oil pan is off, we could get this cleaned up and then reinstall. Now let's take a look at how old and crusty this oil pan gasket is. Not gonna lie to you guys, this does look like the original. Let's get this fresh gasket on. Now that took a while and it was a little bit tedious. While I was at it, I did do the front crank seal and the rear main seal. Sorry, I couldn't get it on video. The serpentine belt, tensioner, and pulley kit. This small assembly is the unsung hero of your engine, powering everything from your alternator and even your power steering. A failure here isn't just inconvenience, it can be catastrophic. Over time, belts stretch, crack, and wear. Tensioners weaken and pulleys seize. Any of these issues can cause squeals, rattles, or worse, a complete loss of accessory drive. This is why I'm replacing everything as a kit, ensuring reliability for thousands of miles. Begin by loosening the tensioner. On the N54, this is straightforward but requires care. Rotate the tensioner to relieve pressure on the belt and slide the old belt off carefully. Inspect all surrounding components to wear, grime, or corrosion and clean them if necessary. Next, we install the new tensioner. This is the heart of the system, maintaining proper belt tension under all conditions. Bolt it in place, making sure it's seated correctly and spins freely. Proper alignment is key here. Even a slight misalignment can shorten the life of your belt or damage a pulley. With the tensioner in place, we move to the pulley kit. Each pulley in the kit is designed to eliminate play and ensure smooth rotation. Every pulley must spin freely and smoothly with no wobble or resistance. The N54 is sensitive, and even minor errors here can lead to vibration, squealing, or belt failure. We can't forget these. So the N54 is prepped. It is as ready as it'll ever be. Looking at it now, knowing that every crucial seal inside has been replaced is a great feeling. This was the hard part, the meticulous work that's essential for a reliable swap. We've addressed problems before they could even start. The kinda in the title is finally starting to fade. But this milestone, as huge as it is really just the end of the beginning. The engine is ready. But the E60 is not. An empty engine bay is waiting. Let's feed this monster. This is one of those steps that separates real builders from parts changers. Installing the torque converter bolts on the BMW E60 with the N54 engine. We've already got the transmission lined up and bolted to the bell housing. It's time to lock the power to the heart of this build. The torque converter bolts are small, but they are critical. Miss this step or rush it, and you'll be pulling the transmission back out again. I start by rotating the crank manually from the front of the engine, one turn at a time, until each bolt hole lines up through the access window. Every time the hole lines up, I install one bolt, a dab of blue Loctite, thread it in carefully by hand, and then torque it down snug. Never force it. You want smooth engagement. The converter should sit flush against the flex plate. No gap, no wobble. There are 6 bolts in total. Each one gets equal attention. BMW didn't design these cars for shortcuts. Everything has to line up with precision. Once all 6 bolts are torqued, I rotate the crank one final time to double check alignment. Smooth, no resistance, perfect. That's when you know it's right. Psst, like the video. This piece might not look like much, but it's what delivers power to the front wheels, the missing link that brings X-Drive back to life. Without it, you've got half the traction, half the performance, and none of that BMW balance we all love. Hit that subscribe button. I want to see if it works. One by one, each bolt goes in. Once the front drive shaft is locked in, I spin it by hand just to make sure it moves freely, smooth, balanced, and has zero play. That's the sound of mechanical perfection. Now this passenger side motor mount nut is pretty hard to get to, but I do have a secret spot up top I will show you guys later. Every step in this build matters, but right here, this is the connection between power and motion, the passenger side axle, the bridge between the front differential and the wheel. It's what makes everything the N54 creates and puts it straight to the pavement. This E60 535 has been through the grind, engine out, gaskets, mounts, transmission, and now it's time to bring the drivetrain back to life, piece by piece. When you're rebuilding a BMW from ground up, the suspension is where precision meets control. And right here, the front control arms are the foundation on how the E60 feels on the road. These axles use a 36mm socket, and tightening them with one hand is not for the weak. This piece doesn't just look clean, it's a shield. It protects the oil pan, the transmission, and critical components from road debris, water, and corrosion. On a high-performance N54 build, it's essential. I start by aligning the tray carefully under the car. You want it flush, no gaps, no misalignment. The mounting points are precise. BMW designed this to sit just right. This is where the E60 starts to look complete. Installing the front radiator, oil cooler, and AC condenser assembly all in one piece. It might seem like just another panel, but this is the lifeline of the engine. The radiator keeps the N54 running at the perfect temperature, the oil cooler protects the heart of the motor, and the AC condenser ensures comfort isn't sacrificed for performance. I start by carefully lowering the entire assembly into place. It's a tight fit, so patience is key. Every hose, every line, every mounting tab has to line up perfectly. Now that we got that installed, I do have one issue. This bolt on the oil cooler decided to challenge us today. We turn, we fight, and eventually it gives in. That's BMW life. So guess what? I'm gonna take on this challenge and remove this bolt without messing up any of the threads on the oil cooler. For a second, it felt impossible. The bolt wouldn't budge, the alignment was off by a hair, and every angle seemed wrong. I stared at it, thinking maybe this step would break the flow of the whole build. But I kept pushing. I took a deep breath, slowed down, and methodically worked through it. Every tool, every angle, every bit of patience mattered. Sweat, frustration, and focus collided in my garage. If you've ever had to drill out a bolt, make sure to comment below. I'm telling you guys, it felt like I tried everything, and nothing was working. The impossible was beaten. The mission succeeded. And now the oil cooler is secured, the build continues, and the E60 keeps coming back to life. This is the moment where everything comes together. The brain of the N54 engine, the DME, holds the keys to the life for the E60. One wrong connection and the car won't start, won't run, or worse, could throw errors that are a nightmare to trace. This isn't just plugging wires in. This is bridging the old with the new, the restored engine to the car's digital brain. Fuel control, turbo management, Vanos timing, ignition, all waiting to communicate once these connections are complete. You can now tighten the 6 bolts on the DME cover. I usually use a T30 to tighten these bolts. There are 2 engine mount bolts. One is a nut. This one right here is a E12 to tighten it. And this is the secret spot I wanted to show you guys. If you look right through here, you will see an access point for the 16mm nut that goes on the passenger side. This is one of those steps where everything starts to feel real. The intake manifold going back onto the N54. Slowly, carefully, the manifold sits into position. The weight, the alignment, the symmetry, everything clicks just right. Each bolt goes in by hand, threading with caution. From the first bolt back on the engine, the N54 starts to feel alive again. The connections, the sensors, the vacuum lines, everything communicates now in harmony.
What has he become?
He's what the world made him become.
Why does no one try to stop?
Now that the front end is coming together, it's time to install the radiator fan, the final piece that keeps the N54 breathing cool under every mile. Make sure to hit that like button. Finally, the front crash bar. Getting this big piece of aluminum back on feels like a huge milestone. It makes the engine bay feel like a giant hole and more like a car again. Just like that, the heavy lifting is mostly done. It feels good. The engine is now a permanent resident once again. On each side of the crash bar, there are 4 13mm bolts. Just like I say in all my other videos, make sure to put all bolts in by hand. It's the easiest way to not strip anything. Comment below what's your favorite way to pull a motor. Is it through the front or do you drop the motor with the subframe? I start by aligning the bumper with the fenders and core support, making sure all clips and mounting points line up perfectly. One wrong angle and the fit won't be flush, and the BMW tolerances are tight. Once aligned, I secure the side brackets, the lower mounts, and the top bolts. Every click of a fastener feels like the final puzzle piece locking into place. Also, don't forget the connections on the bumpers. Some of them have parking sensors. The front fog lights you don't want to forget to plug in either. There is a lot of stuff that we put back on this E60, but you don't want to forget these 4 bolts right here. They help hold the bumper on. The moment the bumper is fully seated, you can see it. The car begins to look whole again. The front end, once torn apart, now tells a story of patience and passion. Now at this point, while I'm putting on the wheels, I just have one thing that's stuck on my mind. Will this E60 run? This plastic shroud goes on top of the radiator. It's held on by 4 T25 bolts. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to like the video. Not gonna lie, you won't be able to open the hood without this. These are the hood latches and they're held on by T30 bolts. Next up is the strut tower brace. This is held on by 4 bolts. Hold on. How are we gonna do this swap without changing the spark plugs? Let's get these installed. Here's the part number for you guys. These are spark plugs. It's pretty straightforward. You just need the special BMW socket. Now it's time to install the trim pieces that hold the cabin air filters into place. These aren't too bad to install. It's just 13mm nuts that you have to twist on. If you've made it this far in the video, make sure to smash that subscribe button.
Third rule of the leaf, Overhaul.
All right, here we go. It lives, it's running. That is the best sound in the world. The engine is settling into a beautiful smooth idle. The sound is perfect. No rattle, no knocks, nothing scary. Just the smooth hum of a BMW inline-six. You can hear the injectors ticking, which is totally normal for these engines. The exhaust sounds clean, no smoke, which means the turbo seals are probably happy. This feeling is just incredible. To hear it running so smoothly after it was in a million pieces on the garage floor, it's fantastic. All those hours cleaning, torquing, and routing wires have paid off. This is the moment that makes all the frustration and busted knuckles totally worth it. This project was a mountain. Pulling an engine is never small, and the N54 presents its own special challenges. We took it on, we were methodical, and we won.